All right. So Tony and I are here to discuss Sussex and some animation ideas. And we use animation, Tony and I and Rose, to talk about, how to add revenue streams to, rental property. And most people, they focus really carefully on their costs. Can you lower your property management fees? Can you find a way to reduce your cost of utilities, so they're really focused on costs. But that's a fairly small adjustment that you can make in your pro forma and your cap rate and your ROI. And I think you can make quite a bit more progress on the real estate side, on the revenue side. So Tony, one of the things that I was going to show that on this recording is I wanted to show really two main things, maybe three. One is the coach house that we're building at 140 William, which has that augmented tenancy, the sort of the main one bedroom unit and then the lock-off suite. So I think I should show that for the recording.
Yes, please. Yeah, that would be great.
And then I wanted to show what Aleali, one of my coaching clients, is doing with his basement renovations, where he's not putting in a 2 or 3 bedroom basement apartment. He's putting in 2 or 3 micro suites. I wanted to show that as well for the recording, if that's okay.
Yes, please. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to see if I can find this. Where am I going? Okay. And I don't know if you. Thanks for doing that, Tony. That does help. Close the other ones too, I guess. And then, we'll actually be able to see you. That's perfect. All right. So I'm going to share my screen with you, one of my screens anyway. And so this is a coach house design for a property that my wife and I own in Belleville. And in front, it has a back-to-back condition. In other words, it has a house here with another house and a back-to-back. So it's not like this side by side like townhouses would be, or a double. It's back-to-back. So there's a 5-bedroom house in the front. There's a 2-bedroom house in the back, and then in the backyard there's this detached garage. And so, Tony, this is a renovation. And that's really important for what we're trying to do in Belleville. It's a renovation. And what I mean by that is there won't be much left other than a 2x4 of the detached garage that's currently in existence. But to get a building permit for a renovation for us in Belleville is a little easier than saying, hey, we're building a new property, or new building there. Because this particular detached garage is right on the property line. So if we knock it down and say we're going to build a new building, there's no way we're going to be able to put it back at the same location. There's setbacks that we'd have to follow, et cetera. So what you're looking at now is this part here. If you can see my cursor moving around, Tony, this part here is where the detached garage is, and the footprint of what will essentially be a new building is exactly the same as the footprint of the detached garage that it's replacing. It's a renovation. And we had to go to the Belleville Committee of Adjustment, and I'm sure you know what the Committee of Adjustment is, right?
We have a different term I think we use in BC, so I'm not familiar with the term.
But let's just make sure that we're on the same page. So sometimes they call them land division committees.
Okay.
Sometimes they call it a committee of adjustment. What is the term that you use in BC?
When we're going for renovation permits and that sort of thing.
No, this is for a minor variance or
for a variance. Yeah, I forget the name of it. That's Rose deals with those details. I forget right now.
Not to worry. But
yeah,
what I'm getting at is a committee of adjustment or land division committee, and they have them all over the world. I mean, a lot of people have adopted this. They tend to be appointed citizens. So it's not necessarily staffed by mayors and councillors and staff. It's staffed mostly by volunteer ordinary citizens, ordinary in the sense that, I mean, the regular folks as opposed to political folks, although you can have political appointees on these committees, but usually it's just regular citizens, and they deal with severances and minor variances and other matters. For example, in Ontario, if you want to do a lease that's longer than 21 years less a day, you have to go to the Committee of Adjustment for approval, because that's considered equivalent to kind of a severance, really, if it's a very long-term land lease. So I've done a few land leases. I've done one for a co-op, one for a church that are, 90 years or 95 years or 99 years. You have to go to the committee of adjustment to get those approved. So it's not council, it's not planning committee. It is a separate process, okay? And I'm sure BC has something similar. So we had to go to the committee of adjustment in the city of Belleville for approval of an addition, which we did get. All right, so this is, and Tony, do you have a set of these plans?
I do not know.
Okay, well, I'll send them to you. I mean, they belong to me. So, I'll send them to you after the call is over.
Thank you.
This is the site plan that we filed as well. It's kind of hard to see, but this is the main house here, the 5-bedroom house in front. This is William Street over here. So that's where it is. Then there's a 2-bedroom house here. So like I said, in a back-to-back condition. We have an entry here. We're putting in new parking here. And we actually have over here, we have an easement that allows us to have, a traffic flow like this. So we have an easement on the neighbor's adjacent property, which really helps us. So we have enough parking here for the 2 homes that we have here and the proposed additional home that we're building in the backyard. The zoning on this property is, I think it's R4, if my memory serves me right. So it does allow more development than you might think, but you're probably familiar with Bill 108 in Ontario, Tony?
Is that the one that basically says all of them can do auxiliary dwelling units, but the municipalities haven't all caught up to it?
Exactly. So Bill 108 was passed, I think, in 2019 by the Ford government. And before that, in most places, most cities and towns in Ontario, you could have, you'd have a house here, and you could have a basement apartment or secondary dwelling unit in the house, and a coach house in the backyard, but not both. And Bill 108 was introduced where you could now have both. So basically, if you look at this would probably fit even in an R1 zone, where you'd have the main house here, and your secondary dwelling unit would be the back-to-back 2-bedroom home. It's equivalent to having a 2-bedroom basement apartment, really. And then this would be the 3rd unit. And Bill 108 does allow for that, okay? So this is the site plan that we have developed. A couple things that I should point out to you is that it's really important to have private areas for all of your tenants if you can do that. And a lot of people, when they have a triplex, 10plex, whatever, they create these beautiful common spaces where, you have the barbecue and the picnic table, and maybe you have a few fun things to do like cornhole or bocce or outdoor ping pong, whatever, maybe a badminton court. But Tony, those don't tend to get used very much. People are very territorial. So let's say you were a single dad and you have one kid. You want to have your own little patio where your kid can have her bike. You can have your own barbecue that you don't share with anyone else. So when we're developing the site plan here, we're going to have a private area for the front tenant here, and she will have her own storage shed here. And we're going to have another private area over here for the back home, and she'll have her own storage shed here. So separated, and we'll do the same thing for the new coach house. And hi, Rose, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. Good.
So we're just we're recording a few things and so that Tony can show his designer or your designers. So we're recording something really for third parties right now. Okay, but welcome. All right, so that's the site plan. I'll go to the next slide over here. This is the floor plan for the coach house. This is the important thing. And as I said to you, Tony, I'll send you a rose afterwards. You get a set of these plans so you can have them. And the only thing I would ask is, if you decide to build something very similar to this, you might give $500 to the architectural technologist, Dustin Poole, in order to be able to use these.
Absolutely.
It just is a nice thing to do, because, these cost me, a few thousands of dollars to develop, which is fine. I didn't mind spending the money. It's going to be a beautiful building. And I'm happy to share it with people I coach, but I do ask them if they do decide to build something very similar based on these plans that they send Dustin. He's a single dad with 3 kids living in a small town in Ontario, so the $500, you know, would matter to him. So just keep that in mind. And you can see his name is here, Dustin Design and Drafting. His first name is Dustin, his last name is Poole, P-O-O-L-E. He's a really talented architectural technologist and a good dad. So here is what we decided to do. So this area here is the existing detached garage in the backyard. And as I said, it's right on the back property line. So we have to sort of renovate it in order to keep that location on the property. And what we're going to do is we're going to have on the right-hand side of my screen, we're going to have a 1-bedroom here with its own bathroom and its own closet. And, you know, I think the one thing that you should note about coach house, most coach house bylaws require that you run the services through the existing home rather than going out with new laterals to the street. Cities and towns generally don't want a million new laterals to the street because that's, you know, the opportunity for damage and leaks. So anyway, so it'll be a 1-bedroom here, and then this part here will be turned into sort of a great room. You've got a kitchen here, an island here, a living room, dining room area in here. Now here's the front door. Now, this is the new construction. This is what we had to go to the Committee of Adjustment to get approval for. So that was considered a minor, not a minor variance, I think is the right way to put it. And so this will be its own self-contained suite. So you can see that it has a door to the outside, but it also has a connecting door, which is very important. So if you walk in here, you've got a bedroom here, you've got a bathroom here, you've got a wet bar or micro kitchen here. You've got some kind of closet, and you'll have some kind of a work area. We haven't actually figured that out yet. And I think this is about, let's see, I think it's about 16 by 23. So I'll just give you the square footage. Yeah, I think it's over 300 square feet. So most of the micro suites, studio apartments that I create, bachelor apartments, there's a million terms for it. Lock-up suite, maybe I already said that, are around 300 square feet. This one I think is a little bit bigger than that. Or maybe I got that wrong. Maybe it's a little smaller than that. But they have been built by the University of British Columbia as small as 145 square feet. Fully functional micro suites of 145 square feet, which is pretty freaking small.
We're doing one that's 170 square feet right now.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll show you after. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I believe you. They build them 145 square feet in Shanghai, but most of the micro suites I built and studio apartments are around 300 square feet. Some are 400, but some are 200 as well. I don't think I build anything much below 200, but I'm sure that'll be, you know, that'll come. So when you look at the functional program for this coach house, this could obviously be a 2-bedroom apartment. All right, you have 1 bedroom here, you have a 2nd bedroom here. So Tony, if you and I were both young guys and we're going to school, maybe going to Loyalist College in Belleville, you know, we could rent this together. Maybe you take the main bedroom and I take the lock-off suite, or vice versa. We have a little bit of privacy if we have friends come over. And so it could be a very nice 2-bedroom apartment on a long-term rental, or it could be a 1-bedroom long-term rental, and then you could put this on Airbnb, right? So somebody might want the Belleville area is adjacent to Prince Edward County, which is wine country in Ontario, and so the demand for Airbnb is really off the charts. It's a fantastic revenue-producing opportunity. So this could be you know, a micro suite on Airbnb. And one of the interesting things is I've had young people, when I've done this elsewhere, I've had young people live in the micro suite and rent out the bigger place on Airbnb, if you follow what I'm saying. And that surprised me because I thought, most people would, want the bigger space and then, rent out the microsuite on Airbnb. Because if you're in there a microsuite for 3 days, it won't bother you. But if it's year round, it's only 200 or 300 square feet. It might bother you to be sort of so confined. But for young people who are trying to, save a buck, make a buck, maybe they have reversed it. So you have lots of different opportunities here. You could rent the microsuite out on a long-term basis, the one-bedroom apartment on a long-term basis, or you could rent both of them out on short-term rentals, medium-term rentals. You could furnish them. I mean, there's just an infinite number of different combinations and permutations, and it's quite a profitable arrangement. And then the other thing that you and Rose could do is you could introduce the concept of augmented tenancy. And I've done this in a number of cases where it makes sense to do it. And so maybe, let's say, for example, you and Rose, you own this coach house and you decided to rent it to me for, I'm just going to make up a number, for $2,000 a month. So Bruce, you can have this 2-bedroom coach house for $2,000 a month. And I go, oh, that's great. But you give me permission. In fact, you require me to rent out the microsuite. And the reason you do that is that you and Rose, as my landlord, can make some additional cash, and I'll show you how. And this is also, Rose and Tony, this is also a workaround for a lot of the Airbnb rules these days. So a lot of cities and towns in the States and in Canada have decided to regulate Airbnb, and what they're, at least in Ottawa, for example, what they're saying is you can only Airbnb a place if you live there. So in my house here, if I wanted to Airbnb, I have a suite in the basement here. If I wanted to Airbnb that, I could do so. That's legal. But if it was one of my rental properties and I wanted to Airbnb it, I'm not allowed to do it because I don't live there. Okay, so this is actually a workaround. So you rent. So if Brantford or some other city doesn't allow you to have Airbnb, what you can do, and it works perfectly well, I have a legal opinion on this, you could rent me this 2-bedroom place for, say, $2,000, and I live in the 1-bedroom here, and I put this on Airbnb with your permission. Now in Belleville, I could get at least $115 a night. I could probably rent it out 20 nights a year, and it's a true bed and breakfast because I live here and I'm a connecting door away, right? So it is a true bed and breakfast. And maybe you introduce a concept called percentage rent. So what you do is you require me to do something with the lock-off suite, and I put it on Airbnb, 20 days for $115 a night. I make, let's say I make $2,500 in Airbnb, and let's say you and Rose are getting a 20% share of that. It's called a percentage rent. It could be 30%, it could be 15%, it could be 50%. I mean, it's dependent on how good a negotiator you are. And I know you're very good at it, so maybe it's even higher than 50%. But most of the time that I've done it, I've been happy with 20 or 30% of the revenues. So again, going back to this case, I'm paying you guys $2,000 a month for that. I'm making $2,500 from my Airbnb microsuite, and I'm giving you 20% of that, which is $500. So now you guys, Rose and Tony, are making a little bit more money. You're making $2,500 for this instead of $2,000, and I'm living there for $2,000, which is what I'm paying in rent. And I'm giving you another $500, but I'm getting $2,500 for my Airbnb revenues. So I'm living there for free. Do you understand? So imagine if Tony and Rose put an ad on Kijiji. Anybody interested in a beautiful 2-bedroom, brand new coach house, rent free? You might get 1 or 2 applications for that, right? And from your point of view, Tony, did you want to comment on that?
Oh, just brilliant idea. I like it.
Well, we've been experimenting with this for probably about 7 years now, and in my opinion, it's probably the only solution, or one of the few real solutions to the affordable housing crisis. The idea of governments in Canada, the United States, in Australia, in Europe, just handing out money for free apartments, well, that's not going to work. That's not sustainable. It isn't. But this is. It doesn't require $1 from the government. And for an older person like me, Tony, I think I may have asked you this before, but possibly not. The average Social Security payment in the United States is about $1,300 or $1,400 a month, and the average Canada pension plan payout is about $650 a month. So if you're a person my age, I'm 70 now, and you're living on your Canada pension plan with $650 a month, that's the average, and about half of Canadians are below that. Or even if you're living on your $1,200 or $1,300 of Social Security payments in the States, that's hard to do. You know, imagine if you and Rose had to live on $500 or $1,000 a month. That's really tough. So if you can do an augmented tenancy like this for somebody my age, and I can live for free, that is really, really a significant change in my circumstances. And the good news from your point of view is, I don't have to tell you this, Airbnb is a lot of work, right? So if I'm living here, and you know, if I fell on hard times, I'm not too proud to do something like this myself, rent this from you and Rose, and I'm not too proud to go in there and clean it myself. I know how to clean things, you know, as a teenager. And as a young man, before I got married, I was, you know, pretty good at that. And so, you know, I could clean it, and I like people. I could welcome my guests in. And so I could basically live close to free or free in this thing. So you've got a million different ways to cut the pie. The best thing from your point of view as an ROI would be to do it yourself. But that's extra work. You've got to arrange the cleaning, and Saturday night, some drunk guy is saying to you or Rose, who's your Airbnb guest, how do I get to Netflix again? You know, which for somebody like me, that would drive me crazy if I had to do that. So, yeah. So that's kind of, you get a little better view of what this thing will look like when it's complete. We're in for building permit right now, and just going through the drawings so you could see them. And I'll send you these drawings so you'll have them on file.
How long has it taken to get the building permit so far?
So we submitted about 3 weeks ago, and they came back with comments. It didn't take very long. They wanted some additional details on mechanical systems. Our structural engineer stamped the drawings, no problem. But there were some mechanical details they wanted ironed out. So that is causing about a 2 or 2.5 week delay. So it probably from start to finish would be about 5 weeks to get our permit.
Right. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So that's kind of what I see as a potential for 6 Sussex. You know, I'll just share so everybody can see it. Here's the picture of 6 Sussex. This is the appraisal that Tony and Rose got done. It's a beautiful looking property.
Yeah, the owner really put a lot of love into the place, for sure.
I think so. And what we're talking about, it doesn't show here, but we're talking about kind of renovating a detached garage, very similar to our condition at 140 William Street.
There's a photo if you scroll down in the if you're interested in seeing.
Yeah, we should look at it, because we're recording this, and I think it's important. I won't go through all of this. Let's go. No, look at this beautiful inside, eh? Just beautiful.
Yeah, that's where I'm sitting right now.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So yeah, this is why we got a deal on the place, because it had some repairs, but those repairs are all done now. So that's the ADU. And you see to the left, there's we could add on it's like 2 cars worth of, if you went that way, you could park 2 or 3 cars on the property.
Fabulous. So I think that's enough, but it's very similar condition to what we have in Belleville.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So that's awesome. So that's one thing that I thought would be useful to show your designers. And then the other thing I wanted to show you, there's 2 other things I thought would be useful to talk about and look at again, Tony. And this is what one of my coaching clients, this particular one was Aleali, and this is a bungalow that he bought in Ottawa on Baseline Road, which is a fairly main road in Ottawa. And I talked to Ali about microsuites. You know, you see a microsuite here, a lock-off suite, studio apartment, whatever you want to call it. This is pretty typical, and I just put this picture here because I like it. You walk in here, there's sleeping area, there's a full bathroom, there's a micro kitchen, there's an entertainment and study area, and then hopefully each microsuite has a little bit of access to the outside, because Canadians and people living in the northern parts of the United States, you know, we get cooped up for 6 months, so it's important to have access to the outside. And as I said when we started this recording, it's very important to have private outdoor space if possible, rather than communal. Human beings are not good at sharing. And this is one of the reasons why microsuites are so popular, even before the pandemic. Obviously, during the pandemic, if you have your own little microsuite, you know, you're not sharing with a roommate. Hopefully, you won't get sick, right? Which is one of the reasons, also, Tony, why and Rose, why I tend to favor hot water heating as opposed to forced air. In forced air, if you have a duplex or a triplex, I've got a 12-plex that I'm building right now. If you have forced air, you know, Tony sneezes on the ground floor or the second floor, and Rose gets sick on the third floor. It's just a perfect vector for disease. And hot water heating is probably a little bit more cost effective, and it's a really good form of heating, in my opinion. And certainly will reduce. Sorry, I'll turn that off. So it is the single hottest trend in real estate worldwide. Basically, people really don't like roommates, and roommates are always arguing, right? Who stole my beer? Who ate the last pizza? Whose turn is it to clean the bathroom? Within a month or 2 or 3, most roommates are arguing. And so if you're a landlord and you have microsuites instead of, you know, say a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, you're probably going to have fewer arguments between tenants, almost certainly. And they're probably going to stay a lot longer, which is important for your profitability. And I'll show you that in a moment. So here's the what UBC did. They were 140 square feet, not 145. And they're so small that UBC, the University of British Columbia, calls them nano suites. Nano is very small. Micro is small, but nano is even smaller. So you can see that they're full studio apartments. You enter here, there's a closet here, a kitchenette here, open space for storage. They've got a full bathroom here with a shower, and they've got a desk that turns into a bed, and a bed that turns into a desk. And it works, and they're really popular. And again, the students prefer this to, say, you know, 2 to a room. They do. They'll pay more for it at university, or mom and dad will pay more for it probably. And there you go. I put down microsuites are hot, smaller eco footprint. You know, do you know the tagline or the motto for the tiny house movement? Less house, more life. And a lot of young people, and not so young people, some people my age, they don't want the mega house and the mega mortgage. You know, they want the microsuite. They want the lower cost, and people my age want to reduce their costs if they can, but they also want to be free to travel and whatever else. So less mortgage, more life, right? Less debt, more life. That's kind of the time. So they call it less house, more life. That is the motto. So popular with young folks and elders. It is pandemic resistant. No squabbling from amongst roommates, and this is really important for profitability. If you have to replace, if you have, you know, say 50 doors or 100 doors, and you have to replace, if you have 100 doors, you have to replace them all every year. That's 100 friggin' new leases you have to do. 100 times a year that you have to get your units ready for the next tenant. You might have to clean it up. You might have to repaint it. You might lose 2 weeks or even a month of rent every year. So reducing churn is important. And I try and write as many 2-year leases, residential leases, as I can. Some people say, no, I just want a year. Okay, fair enough. But if I can do 2-year leases with some kind of rental increase in the second year, I do try and do that as well. And you get higher rents, and you actually get better tenants, and you'll see why in a moment. So, there's the motto for the tiny house movement. So this is what Ali did with his basement. Okay, so when we first talked about it, you know, I'm his coach. I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to put a 3-bedroom apartment in. And then he came back after he filed his building permit, which was a mistake. He should have showed me this plan before. But anyway, it's a very good plan, but it can be improved. And you'll see in a minute what I'm getting at. So what he did was, so there, if you go up these stairs to the ground floor, there's a separate entrance at the back to the basement. So you don't have to go through the main house to get to the basement. That's very important. So when I buy a property, I'm always looking, does the basement have its own ingress and egress? Because if you can have that, that's good. Again, people don't like to share an entrance. They don't. And in Quebec, that's very common. Quebecers tend to be more communal. They tend to live together a little bit better. They tend to be a bit more social. But people in California, people in Texas, people in Ontario, probably in BC too, you know, they don't really want to know their neighbors. You know, they just want to come home and go turn on the TV and smoke some weed or whatever. At least in Canada they do. So you come down here like this, down the stairs here, and you turn right, they have a stacked washer and dryer. And that is common to the 3 microsuites that are in the basement. So that's a common area. You turn left as you come down the stairs, you come into this common area, which is a dining room and a kitchen. Okay, fair enough. Now you come in this door here, you're into a microsuite. So the microsuite has its own bedroom, it has its own little work area here, a lounge area here, a lunch counter here, a micro kitchen here, and through this door, it has its own bathroom. I don't really like putting tubs in, but Ali put in tubs. I would have put in showers. You know, when was the last time, Tony, you took a bath? Yeah, probably a while ago.
Right,
The last time I took a bath is I can't remember.
Right.
So there's one microsuite. You go over here through this door, very similar condition. You come in here, here's your lunch counter, here's your work area, there's your bed, there's your lounge area. I guess that's your fridge and micro kitchen, there's your cupboard, and then there's your bathroom. And over here is the third one. This one is probably the nicest layout, or I like it anyway. Big cupboard here, bedroom here, lounge area, work area, micro kitchen. You know, this one really works well, I think. Lunch counter, fridge, and then a bathroom here. So you'll notice that this friggin' basement has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 kitchens. And that's the one thing I didn't like about it is I said to Ali, you got 4 kitchens for 3 apartments. Why is that? The reason he had to put this, he needed a full kitchen to get his building permit and to have a legal use. So the city of Ottawa said, okay, yes, you can have all these wet bars, no problem, but you do need a full kitchen. So he put in, you know, just to get his building permit, he put in a whole kitchen here. And I said, well, next time, could we make the full kitchen in one of these microsuites? Make one of the microsuites a little bigger and put the full kitchen in there, and then take this area here and make it a true common area, right? So rather than being a 4th kitchen, which you don't really need, why don't you make it, you know, put a large screen TV in there, a nice couch in there, maybe a mini ping pong table in there, a foosball table, something that brings these 3 microsuite you know, tenants together once in a while. Or if you have a friend over, you can, you know, listen to music and watch TV or play some games, right? So I think you know, you could get a building permit for this probably with just the 3 kitchens, as long as one of them was a full kitchen, and then make this common area, so, you know, a more fun place than it currently is. So he said, yeah, he'll do the next one like that. Now look at the numbers. This is incredible. If he had built the 3-bedroom apartment, his original cost for doing that was estimated at $90,000, and on Baseline Road in Ottawa, he can get about $1,800 of gross operating income for that. We take off 34% for OPEX, which you've seen me do before, to get your net operating income. So you're going to end up with about $14,000 of net operating income. 34% goes out the window for property taxes, insurance, property management, repairs, maintenance, vacancy allowance, all that good stuff. So that's a very good return, 15.8% cap rate. Nothing wrong with that. But look what actually happened. His 3 basement microsuites cost him $110,000. His gross operating income for each one of these microsuites got $995 for each one. plus $50 for parking and $85 for a tech package or multimedia package. So everybody has Netflix and good quality internet. So times 3, it gets $33.90 a month instead of $1,800. So that is a huge change. His net operating income jumps from about $14,000 to almost $27,000, and his cap rate is a ridiculous 24%. Right?
Wow.
So that is pretty friggin' great.
Yeah, amazing. Looks
Yeah,
great.
it is. Yeah, I mean that is one of the best basement renovations I've ever seen, and I, I've done lots of basement apartments that are 2 bedrooms, and I think I have a few 3, but I don't have anywhere near that kind of return. But you can be sure that the next one I do, I'm going to learn from. I coach people; they hopefully learn something from me, but I certainly learn from them too. Right. So this is a really good a quality piece of work that Mr. Aleali did with his wife.
Right.
And then one other last thing I wanted to show you is we're doing an awful lot of microsuites where we're just finding ways to add value. And I just wanted to show you one other. This is Ken MacKenzie and his wife Natalie. They own this home that you can see here in a small town in Ontario. It's Rockland, Ontario, which is east of Ottawa. And they're younger than me. They're in their 50s, but they're getting ready for retirement. And Ken, I think, has a pension, but it's maybe not really great. And Natalie has one too, but again, not a huge amount of money. So they asked me, what can they do with their house? That's quite an interesting place. And if you look at this door here, they actually have a 1-bedroom apartment, which you can sort of see the windows on the left-hand side. They actually had a 1-bedroom apartment already there. The only thing that they hadn't done is they hadn't fire separated it from the main house. But I said, well, it's perfectly set up for a 1-bedroom apartment with a very small investment. You could, you could rent that out. In Rockland, there's a lot of demand for this sort of thing. You could certainly get probably $1,800 a month for it for a 1-bedroom. And then, but I went and visited with them. This was before the pandemic, when visiting clients was a little bit easier than it is, or it has been anyway recently. But when I went and visited them, something else occurred to me. And I want you to keep your eye on this balcony here and this wall of glass here, okay? So this is a picture that I took. I'll move this over here so we can see it properly. This is a picture I took. So that's the glass wall. This is the glass wall here that we saw from the outside a moment ago. And this is a picture I took in this direction. And on the next slide, this is a picture I took in the other direction. And I went for a tour of the house, and it was kind of an interesting house. I'd never seen anything like it. It has not 1, but 2 living rooms, 2 actual living rooms, one at this level and one half a level up. So it's kind of like a split level, I guess. And I said to Ken and Natalie, with 8 or 9 feet of drywall here, this thing is perfectly set up for a microsuite. And they said, what's a microsuite? So, I talked on for about half an hour as to what it is. And so with some fire separation here and a solid core door, you end up with about a 300 square foot living room that can be converted very easily into a microsuite. And what's really cool about it is it already has a door to the outside. If you remember, there was a veranda up there. Guess what? So this place, this is you can sort of see me here. That's the shadow of me, and there's Ken standing next to me. And so this is the veranda that we saw from down below. And this could be a microsuite. You get up onto the terrace here. You go in there. You've got your a very nice suite. So all it needed to be its standalone was a bit of drywall and a connecting door and a wet bar and a bathroom, and then he's good to go. So if you think about that for a moment, Tony, that addition, which would cost about $40,000 to put the bathroom in, to put in a micro kitchen, to fire separate it, is about, and furnish it, was about 40 grand. And on that one, he can get about $1,400 a month for that microsuite in Rockland. So $1,400 a month times 12 gives you gross income of about $16,800. Multiply that by 0.66 and divide that by $40,000, which is his cost. It's about 27 or 28% cap rate, which is fantastic. So between the 1-bedroom and the microsuite, he can add to his revenues, for his retirement. He can add, probably about $3,200 a month. That's quite significant.
That's amazing. That's great. Yeah.
And so we love the idea of adding microsuites. And so one of the things that I've taught people to do is add doors everywhere you can as you renovate. So if you have a bedroom that has, a nice window to the outside and you're doing something with it, add a door there instead, add a French door or a couple of French doors. Every time you add a door from a room, I don't care what room it is, your living room, your dining room, your kitchen, a bedroom to the outside, you're adding the potential for new value.
You can ask Rose. I'm a specialist. The minute we buy a property, I'm adding doors, turning windows into doors, and adding like at Boomstick. Yeah.
And if you have time, Tony, I probably should show you for this recording one other thing that clients of mine have done. This is a different client in Rockland, brand new building. It's a 6-plex, which for new construction has the highest cap rate. I think if it's not the highest cap rate I've seen for brand new construction, it's certainly among the highest. Because most people, when they're building an apartment building today, whether it's a 6-plex, a 10-plex, and 30 units, 100 units, if they can get cap rates that are 5.5% to 6.5%, they're actually doing pretty well, because new construction is very expensive and takes a long time. But I want to show you, is it okay if I show you what clients of mine did with their 6-plex?
Yeah.
I mean, it just blows my mind. If you ever decide to do, new stuff. So I'm just going to, give me 1 second. I'm going to pause the recording here because I've got to find the actual file, and if it takes me a minute, I don't want people to be watching this and their silence for a minute. It's kind of boring. So I'm going to pause the recording. Okay, so I found the files that I need to refer to, but I just wanted to show Tony and Rose, if they ever do brand new development, something that is really has worked really, really well, even better, I think, than I expected. And I'm just going to share another screen with you guys, and we'll go there. So this is, I'll just move this over. Oops, yeah, I think I should move that over there and this over here. So this is a 6-plex, but I call this a 6-plex 10-plex. What the hell is a 6-plex 10-plex? Well, I'm going to explain that in a minute. So this is brand new construction that Brad Cartier and Aaron Markel are doing in Rockland, and it's got 2 2-bedroom units on the ground floor, 2 2-bedroom units on the second floor, and it's got 2 2-bedroom units in the basement. And you can see as you walk around, the ground does slope down here, and so the basement units are walkout condition. Okay, now on some of the ones that they are building 6 of these. This is the first one that they built, and on some of the sites that they're working on, they do not have that slope, but still they're doing walkout. And so we call that a manufactured walkout condition. And what that means is they're excavating around the foundation quite a piece, probably 12 or 15 feet. And so you walk down a nice set of stairs, and you've got down at this level here, you've got really a walkout condition where you've got lots of glazing, lots of light, good quality doors. And that really changes things for your basement apartment. It doesn't feel like a basement apartment. So it's a manufactured walkout condition. Now, your designers and your contractors will say, oh, no, you can't do that. You've got a flat property. You just, it's a basement. It's going to be like living in a submarine. That is not true. And if you look at buildings that were built in the 1880s and 1890s, they did this then. and we can do it. If they could do it in the 1880s, we can do it in 2020s. I guarantee it. So, and Brad and Aaron will do that as well. All right. So, okay. So it's a sixplex, right? 2, 2, and 2. But here's the big but. Let's see where I can get to. I got to make sure I'm in the right place. It's complicated too. So I'm gonna have to make it a little bigger. Oops. I gotta make it a little bigger for you guys so I can see it. Oh,
I can see it.
yeah, I know you can, but I'm gonna make it bigger for me. All right, so just bear with me. Okay, so I mean, I wish I could walk you through it. I mean, actually take you there because it is really, really good. But anyway, so all right. So here is the door. You come in here, you've got a living dining room area here, you've got a kitchen here. You come down this little corridor here, you've got a bedroom here. The bedroom leads out onto a deck. You've got a bathroom here that serves this bedroom. But you also have another means of ingress and egress. You have this external stair here. So actually, I think in this case, this is the second level. So this actually leads onto a patio on top of the garage. So that's not your main entrance. Your main entrance, because this is the second level, is through this door here. And you can come down here and you're into the main 1-bedroom apartment here. But what is really interesting about it is there is independent ingress and egress to this microsuite over here. So it is a 2-bedroom apartment, but it works almost identical to what we saw when I went through the coach house in 140 William. But it's, you know, so you could have a 30-story apartment building, Tony and Rose, and this would work exactly the same. So again, you have this, I call this a gigaplex. I call this augmented tenancy. And those are the terms I made up. But if you think about it, again, you have exactly the same condition. This is an independent microsuite. It's a studio apartment. It's got a micro kitchen here. It has its own bathroom. It has a connecting door, but it also has its own ingress and egress from the outside. And if I could go back here, this is, I think, the ground floor unit. So the ground floor unit is even nicer in some ways. So this is the main entrance to the ground floor unit here. It's double doors. You come in here, very similar to what you saw on the second floor. Kitchen here, living room, dining room here, main bedroom here. Here's the bathroom. And here is your independent microsuite, which has its own door to the outside here, a connecting door here, and another door here. I mean, there's doors everywhere, and I like that. So again, you have exactly the same condition that I described earlier on this recording, where you can do, you know, you can rent a 2-bedroom apartment, you can rent a 1-bedroom apartment with the microsuite, and all that is possible. Now, what I wanted to show you was the numbers. They just blew me away. You still there, Tony? All
Yeah,
right.
I'm here. Can you see me?
Yeah, perfect. So this, we call it a Rockland Gigaplex. Again, you can't really look that up. It's just a name I made up. They bought this lot in Rockland for $350,000. And Aaron is a constructor, so he would build this cheaper than I would. Like if it was me, my cost would be quite a bit higher than this. It would be at least $200 a square foot if I build it. So it's 6,000 square foot building, it'd be about 1.2 million, and it might be 1.5 million. But Aaron is actually in the business. He's got his own crews. So he has, all in, his sixplex is about $1 million to build, which is very good.
Yeah.
So it's a 6-plex, 10-plex, because it's, you know, so the units, the 2 units on the top floor, the second floor, the 2 units on the ground floor, they are gigaplex. They have the lock-off suites. The 2 units in the basement do not. So the 2 units in the basement are just 2 2-bedroom units. So that's why I call it a 6-plex, 10-plex. So 2 units in the basement, really 4 on the ground floor and 4 on the second level. So that's how you get the 10. So they're renting the 2-bedroom apartment with $2,000 for the 1-bedroom, and they're doing it themselves, $1,600 for the lock-off. Times 4 is $14,400 monthly from the ground floor and the second floor. The basement walkout is just 2,000 times 2 because there's no gigaplex down there, so that's another 4,000 monthly. Their grand total rent is $18,400. It's incredible. $220,000 a year from a 6-plex, 10-plex. That just blows my mind. Their cap rate is 16%, 16.4% on new construction. I'm telling you, I've never seen that before, and I've never achieved that myself. And then a couple of other little animations they're doing. They're going to put some, Amish sheds in the back and then rent them out for storage, which adds a little bit to your income and your cap rate. So if you think about this, okay, Tony, do you have a calculator there?
Yeah, I can just grab it 1 sec.
Right, grab your calculator. I'm going to put you to work for a minute.
Okay, so.
Okay, you ready?
Just opening it up, 1 sec, calculator. Okay, ready.
So the net operating income, I don't think I did that right. Did I do that right? I don't think I think the cap rate is wrong. I think I divided the cap rate by gross operating income divided by cost to get 16.4. That's not correct. Can you do this for me? I apologize to the recording. I think I made a mistake here. So can you do 220,800 times 0.66 divided by 1.335 million?
8,800 times 0.66.
Yeah, and divided by the 1.35 million. So the cap rate, I'm going to stand corrected here.
1.3500.
Probably 11 or 12%.
11, just under, no, around 11, just under 11.
So what did you get?
10,1079. So it's basically, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually more believable. And I apologize to the recording and to you guys for screwing up. But it really isn't going to make a whole lot of difference, and I'll show you why in a second. All right.
And 10 cap is unheard of on a new build.
I mean, like I said, most of the new builds that I'm involved with are around 5.5 to 6.5, which is fine. If you can get to 8 or 9, that's a home run. 10.8%. It's not the 16 that I showed, but it's still very, very good. But here's the thing that really makes it. So what do you think the selling cap rate would be?
5 cap.
Let's say it's we'll just go with 5.5%. The reason I'm going at 5.5 is that I don't have to tell you guys this. As interest rates go up, selling cap rates are going to go up too. So you're not going to get quite as much money for selling it. I'm not saying you should sell it, but whether you sell it or you keep it and refinance it, cap rates are going to, appraisers are going to use cap rates that are a bit higher to value your property. And that's just the way it's going right now. So I'm going to say the selling cap rate or the fair market value cap rate. So you don't have to sell it. So the fair market value cap rate would be 5.5%. Okay. So now take this. Let's see. Yeah. So do this with your calculator. Put in 1.35 million.
1 sec here. 1.35 million. Yeah.
Multiplied by 10.8
times 10.8
and divided by 5.5.
Divided by 5.5, 2.65, 2.650909.
All right, that's all I need. I'll just go with 2.65 now. So what these guys are doing, and I'm going to have to get back to them now that I've figured out that I screwed up the first time I did this, is that they're going to end up with a building that cost them 1.35 million all in, including finances, including construction, including land cost, about 1.35 million, and its value be about 2.6 or 2.7 million when they finish. That is a home run.
Yeah.
And their model, they're building 6 of them now. They've got 6 sites already in their pipeline, and this was the first one. It's almost complete now, or it will be shortly. So their plan is to keep 4 and sell 2, or keep 3 and sell 3. All right. So if you can sell, say, one of them and make $1.3 million on one of them, and you sell 3 of them, that's like almost $4 million of gross profit. And you keep 3 of them, your mortgages will be very low, and your gearing will be very low. Your cash flow will be exceptional. So the model that I think makes most sense is keep some, sell some.
Yep.
And that's kind of what they're doing. All right. Now,
So why wouldn't they just build a 10-plex out of curiosity? It's only zoned for a 6-plex, or like restrictions for height.
No. You're exactly right. It is zoned for 6 units.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that the microsuites, the lock-off suites, are not considered additional units, and they do not attract development charges.
So we're sorry to cut you off, but we're doing a similar thing with a duplex build where we're going to get 6 units the same way, but on a duplex zoned lot. So
Exactly. And so if you think about it, really at 140 William, I've got the main house, I got the back-to-back house, I've got the coach house, but really I don't have 3 units, I have 4.
Right.
Yeah. You know, so it's a way of getting more units and in a way almost more density, and it's also a wonderful contribution to affordable housing.
Right.
I mean, if you decide to go with the augmented tenancy thing, I mean, and you may not. In their case, these are young people like you, Tony, and they don't mind doing the extra work.
Right. Yeah.
Now, just before, while we were paused on our recording, Tony asked me and Rose asked me a question about, you know, how to bring in investors to projects, and I talked a little bit while we were not recording about the Mad River financings that I've done and that I would recommend to you guys to at least consider. And how does that work? And again, you can't really look up Mad River financing because it's just another term I made up, because the very first time I used it, you've heard me say this before, was in a ski town in the States called Mad River. And so this is how it works. All right. So let's say you have a project that you would like to bring in an investor. And a lot of people who are, you know, entrepreneurs like you guys, they bring in an investor and they say, well, let's do a 50-50. To me, a 50-50 is a mess. It's a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for stalemate. And also, as an investor myself, I don't like 50-50. I'd rather own 10% of a building or 30% of a building, so that it's very clear where the responsibility to get the mortgage, to do the renovation, to get the building permits, to do the tenanting is you, not me. That's why you're, you know, a young person full of energy. And so I would rather, you know, say own 30% of a new building, and Tony and Rose own 70%. So it's very clear where the buck stops. So the way you do that is, let's say you bought a building for, I don't know, $700,000, and you're going to renovate it for $150,000. And knowing you guys, you're buying below appraised value, so it's probably a no money down thing. And you need, I don't know, $150,000 to do the renovation. Okay. And so, you know, in theory, I mean, if you were going to own 70% of this building, and you needed 150,000, you know, you and Rose would put in, say, $105,000 of your own money, and somebody else will put in $45,000. So the rich dude, you know, rich Uncle Buck, he puts in, you know, 45,000, and Rose and Tony put in 105,000. You own 70%, and the investor owns 30 or 35%, 30%. So okay, that's one way of doing it. But what we tend to do is a little bit different. So let's say Tony and Rose put in $15,000 towards the renovation, and you ask the rich dude, Mr. Rich Uncle Buck there, you ask the rich dude to put in $5,000. So now you have $20,000 of equity in this project, right? You've got a mortgage basically to pay for the closing, and you've got $20,000 to pay for the renovations, right? 15 from Rose and Tony, and 5,000 from the rich dude. And as a result, he owns 25% of the building, and you own 75%. You can change the numbers, but that's the kind of the idea. But then you go, wait a second, Bruce, we're $130,000 short. Okay, that's where the Mad River thing comes in. We ask the rich dude, the investor, to loan the project $130,000. And one of the things that I've been doing more recently is he or she, the rich investor, doesn't actually registered as a second mortgage. What they do is they get you guys to sign a promissory note. It doesn't show up anywhere other than, you know, I mean, a rich guy can lend you and Rose money just because he feels like it or she feels like it, right? So they get a promissory note. It's basically an IOU from Tony and Rose saying, I owe you whatever it is, 130 grand, yeah, 130,000. I'll give you 6% interest on the promissory note, maybe 8% these days, but 6 or 8%. The promissory note will mature in, say, 3 years, and will capitalize interest, which means it's paid at the end. And in the promissory notes that I've been writing, I make it simple interest, right? Because Albert Einstein said the most powerful force of the universe is compound interest, because it can run away on you. So with just 6% of whatever it was, 130,000, you know, which is $8,000 or $9,000, and that's payable at the end. All right. So now you've got when you know, so you are holding, say, 25 or 30% of the property in trust for the investor. He or she does not show up on title at all. It's just you and Rose on title, or maybe just you on title, Tony, or Rose on title, or both of you, whatever. And so you're getting the first mortgage, right? And you're holding in trust for the investor an equity interest of 25 or 30%, and you have signed a personal promissory note to the investor for the difference, right, of what money you need. Now, from a bank's point of view, they love this. They think, oh my God, Tony and Rose have got a lot of equity in this property, because the promissory note is, it could be, maybe you use that money to fly to Vegas and gamble. I mean, you know, nobody knows. I mean, people can make those investments, and you're holding in trust that ownership position because the investor doesn't want to go on title because he or she doesn't want to guarantee the mortgage. That's your business. All right. So it works really, really well. From your point of view now, you're going to own like 70% or 75% of this property, and you've got $15,000 of your own money. You know, that's a good deal. And if you wanted to reduce it, Rose, you could say, well, okay, I'll put in $5,000 of equity, and the investor will put in, you know, $1,500 or $2,000, right? You can just adjust the numbers to as small as you want. I suppose it could be $15 by you guys and $5 by the other guy, but that's pretty small. So generally speaking, we put in some money, but it's very little. And but it shows very well to the lending community. And the nice thing about this at the end of the 3 years is, again, you are not really repaying. What you're going to do is, hopefully, you've done the renovations that you wanted to, you've driven up the value of the property, you've animated the heck out of it. And within that 3-year period, you can reappraise it at a higher rate, put in a new mortgage, and pay the investor back his or her $130,000. So you retire that note with interest within 3 years that way. So you're never actually going to pay it, as long as you do a good job. Now, the other thing that I put in from the investor's point of view, which you may not like, but I tend to do this, is I put in there that they have the right to take action against the entrepreneur if they are failing. So let's say, for example, you didn't pay your first mortgage, that we put in the trust agreement and in the promissory note some actions that the investor can take under certain circumstances, for example, not paying your mortgage, right? So far, I don't think I've ever seen it used, but they have the ability to basically kick you out and take over ownership if under certain circumstances, and that is to protect the investor in case you guys are screw-ups, including you know, registering the promissory note with your permission on title. Because
if I was an investor, I would be asking for the same things, 100%.
But only, you know, only under certain circumstances, like a default on the first mortgage. So that has happened a few times. And I hate, even if I had a mortgage or the investor had a mortgage on your property, I hate power of sale. It is the worst friggin' thing ever. The worst time to sell something is when it's in financial difficulties. So a few times that I've had some of my, you know, young partners get into trouble. I have done this myself. You know, it's like a foreclosure, right? Where I would end up owning it, and the investor, I mean, the entrepreneur gets kicked to the curb. You end up with nothing. You just get kicked out. and I end up owning, or investor friends of mine end up owning it. Then they fix it up. Since it's now the title is transferred to my name, I don't have to, you know, because power of sale, you put that on the MLS, you're required to put it on the MLS to make it public. And then all the rats come out, right, trying to, you know, buy it cheap, and it tarnishes the property forever, right? It's always on title that it was a power sale. And so that's a terrible idea, in my opinion. And I've had lawyers, Tony and Rose.
Is there a way to mutually, if it went to get to that point, is there a way to mutually agree to avoid all that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can negotiate a divorce before you get married.
Yeah, right.
It's called a prenup. So, I mean, these are more complicated. I'm simplifying it, Tony. Okay, right. But you know, if there's a lot of trust around, and you don't invest if you don't trust people, right? So if there's a lot of trust, you can finesse these things. But anyway, so I prefer the foreclosure route, and then own it myself. You know, pay off the first mortgage, or bring it up to date, finish the renovations, finish making it tenant, and then you can do whatever you want with it. If you put it up for sale, you don't have to declare that it was a foreclosure. That's nobody's business. It's not like a power sale. And if I make a little bit of money, all of that comes to me. None of it goes to the original entrepreneur.
Right.
Now, in normal course of business, if you look at it from an investor's point of view, on this imaginary deal that we talked about, you bought the property for $700,000 and you renovated it for $150,000. So now you're at $850,000. But knowing you and Rose, you probably bought it for 20 or 30% below fair market value. So maybe now the building's worth 1.2 or 1.3 million. That's all great. Think about it from the investor's point of view. So once that 3-year promissory note has been repaid, my 130 grand is repaid, it means I own, say, 30% of that building for $5,000. So from an investor's point of view, it's fantastic. I've got these wonderful people, you and Rose, doing all the hard work. I'm just sitting around, you know, clipping coupons, and have, you know, I talk to you guys twice a year, you know, just to say hi. And you know, now I own 25 or 30% of a building after 3 years, after my money's been retired. And investors love having some of their money in equity, but they also love having it in debt, because the debt hopefully gets repaid.
Right.
So it's a very good deal for you as entrepreneurs, because you own 70% of this or 75% of this building for $15,000, and now it's worth a ton of money.
And then it's very clear about who's doing what and the responsibilities, and yeah.
Exactly. So that's how I would structure it. And if you're going to look for investors to help you with any of your properties, what we should do, if you want some help from me, is we'll just do a webinar and, you know, invite, you know, 5 or 6 people to a webinar and talk about it. And if you want me on that, maybe I can't do anything else, but I could talk.
Absolutely. I would be honored if we could take the opportunity to do a webinar. Like I said.
And you know, most investors, you know, some investors will, you know, if it's an RRSP fund that's coming in, that has to be a second mortgage. Okay, it just has to be. That's a requirement of the law. So there's about $1.7 trillion of RRSP money, and I'll bet you half of it, if not more, they're super unhappy with their investment. You know, if you own a mutual fund or a T-bill, or I don't know if you can own T-bills in Canada, but you know, you're probably not making more than a few percent. So if it's an RRSP second mortgage, you're going to get 8 or 10% on it, maybe even 12%. And again, the RRSP mortgage is, you can structure it very similar to what we've just been talking about, and you can go up to it like 97% loan to value. So you know, again, you don't have to worry about that. But if it is a lot of people have RRSPs, and like I said, you know, including myself, you know, I've got RRSP money in second mortgages, and you know, I make 8 or 10, 12% on that, which is fine by me compared to my, you know, my RRSPs. When I had the CIBC running it, I think I lost money. You know, the CIBC, you know, had $1 million of my money invested in, out of the 1,000 mutual funds, top mutual funds in Canada, the CIBC had 4 of the bottom 10, and I had all 4 of those. So in a stock market boom that was fantastic, I think I lost on my $1 million. I think I lost 2% a year for 5 years. Almost impossible.
Right.
If you had monkeys throwing, darts at the chart of 1,000 mutual funds, I would have done better. 4 of the bottom 10 they owned, and I had all 4 of those. I mean, there was the private bank. It was awful. And so I said, to heck with this. And so, obviously, I know something about real estate, so I'm comfortable with it. So I just started lending it, and it's all deployed, unfortunately, right now. But what I like about what you're doing is that you're able to offer some equity as well, right?
Right.
Now, with our RSP mortgages, they're not allowed to take equity. All right. So that's just pure finance, right? And for me, making 8 or 10 or 12% of my money is a lot better than -2.
I'd be happy with RSP money. I lean towards a JV thing because I know for somebody who's looking for a JV, what an opportunity is.
Yeah. And you can do both. You can do both. If somebody's got cash, they can come in through the Mad River financing. They can come in as a JV partner, and if they've got RSP funds, they can loan. But they can't. They can't be the same person doing both. Even though I might have funds in both ends, I'm not allowed to own equity in a project where I'm an RRSP lender. And by the way, I have an RRSP a loan on a chicken coop.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
do. There's a young fellow I know of in Carleton Place, but it's a beautiful chicken coop. It's like he does, he's got a beautiful house, and in the backyard, it's legal, I think, in Carleton Place. He's got this commercial chicken coop, and he needs some help. So I said, oh yeah, I'll put an RRSP second mortgage on that, and he paid it back, no problem.
Wow. Yeah, the arm's length thing is nice too, right?
Yeah, well, the arm's length thing is so RSP has lots of rules, but it's a wonderful way to raise money. And like I said, you can go up to, like, I think 97%, 95% loan to value.
We have a closing on one of these properties in 30 days. Are we going to be set up in time to do RSP and all this stuff? Probably not.
What you should do is, I work closely with Denise McPherson and her husband, Stuart McPherson. They're younger than me, but not much. And they specialize in our RSP mortgage financing. And you probably have if you don't have, you should have a mortgage broker who's tied into our RSP mortgages. Like, I've got at least a couple of these guys. Denise and Stuart come to mind, but I've got a few others who do that, because I don't have time, and nor do you, to go and beat the bushes looking for individuals who want to do our RSP second mortgages. I mean, that's what mortgage brokers are supposed to do. Now, many mortgage brokers in Ottawa are a bit lazy. If you come to a mortgage broker and say, hey, my wife and I were both civil servants working for the government of Canada. I make $185,000 a year. My wife makes $185,000 a year. We've got $2 million in RSPs. We've got $1 million in cash, and we're buying a $2 million house. I need $1 million mortgage. And we both have credit scores, close to perfect, 850 or above. Well, you don't have to be a genius to put that mortgage together, right? You can go to any of the banks and they'll do it for you. What we're talking about is mortgage brokers who understand real estate entrepreneurs like you, Tony, and Rose. And you need one of those. If you don't have it, you need to get another mortgage broker, okay? Because you want you just say to the mortgage broker, I do this with my guys. If I'm doing one right now, actually, for a commercial project of mine. I'm getting an RSP second because I need the extra money for that stupid project of mine in Belleville. I'm renovating that 3-story building, and it's costing me a fortune. So I needed a little bit of extra cash, and I just got my mortgage broker to say, hey, do it. And 3 weeks later, I had the money.
Right.
So you should talk to your mortgage broker. I'm sure you have a few on the hook, and see who does RSP seconds. And if you don't have one, reach back to me, and I'll introduce you to Denise and Stuart McPherson, and I'll introduce you to Sean McCormick.
Okay, I'll reach out to my mortgage broker. I'm going to call him after this, actually.
And if they don't do it, I'd be really friggin' disappointed, because they're, like I said, I mean, if you've got perfect credit scores and you got oodles of cash and you want a simple mortgage for a house, I mean, yeah, okay. So you got your mortgage broker's license, and then that's all you can do. That's not very helpful for people like us.
Right.
All right. Is there anything else, Tony?
Rose, do you have any questions?
One of the great things about turning off your camera, Rose, is you could be doing anything.
Yeah.
Sorry. I have a million questions, little detailed questions, but I don't think now is the time to ask the little detailed questions.
Well, you can ask one, and then I gotta get going because I do have
Yeah.
a coaching assignment
No,
at 12:30.
That's, well, I kind of got confused at the end regarding the RSP and the second mortgage, and I understood that they could do the Mad River thing, or it's not applicable
So
to
yeah,
the
I think I may have tripped over my own tongue on that one. So if somebody like me was deploying his RRSP funds to provide you with a mortgage, I am not allowed to own any equity in that project. It has to be arm's length, because the government of Canada views ownership as being self-dealing, and they absolutely don't want that with RRSP funds. I think they're wrong about that, but those are the rules. So an RRSP mortgage is purely a mortgage, and which is fine. You can go up to 97 or 98% loan to value. And I think that's a mistake, but it is the law of the land.
So it's a separate strategy from the
Yeah,
Mad River one. Doesn't
somebody
apply.
like
Okay.
Mary Smith could do the RRSP mortgage thing, and if I had the cash available, could do the Mad River thing, right, and own part of it. So you can do both, but they're not
Okay.
the same person. So your mortgage broker should know and should have access to people who want to place their RRSP. Like I have mortgage brokers that do this for me, so my RRSPs are invested in second mortgages, and it's because of what I said. The CIBC lost 2% a year in the greatest stock market boom maybe ever, or certainly in my lifetime. But it's ridiculous. So I changed my strategy, and obviously did much better on my own. I have had so far, knock on wood here, 0 loan losses. And I always put in my RRSP mortgages, because they are proper mortgages, I put in foreclosure provisions. Right. So I tell the entrepreneurs, if you want my RRSP money on your chicken coop, I'll do it. But if you screw up, I'm going to be in the chicken coop business.
Yeah.
All right. Because I will not do a power sale. I don't think I've ever done a power sale, but I've done quite a few foreclosures in my career. All right. I have to go. I have a recording. I will upload it to YouTube, so Rose, you can watch it over again and get bored out of your mind by having to listen to me for an hour and 20 minutes.
Out of curiosity, how can we do a webinar? I know you got to go, but should I message you or?
So first, what you should do, the very first thing you should do is you should talk to your mortgage broker and find out if he or she can help you with RSPs, because that's easy. All right, that should just be a straight mortgage at 8 or 10%. And again, you only put those mortgages in place, for as short of time as possible, because the idea is you use that to do your renovation. You get it reappraised, you pay out the RSP mortgage, so you replace 8 or 10% or even 12% money with 4 or 5% money, right? So you don't want to pay 12% forever. You want to pay 12% for 6 months or a year, reappraise and pay it out. All right, so it's a bridge to get somewhere.
Right. Okay.
Right? And so that's easy stuff. You don't need a webinar for that, but for investors, they do.
Okay.
And that you'd have to reach back to me for. Okay.
Okay. I'll message you about it. Okay. Thank you.
See you guys.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Email is best for me. Okay.
Okay.
And just a heads up, Tony and Rose, I'll see you next week. But as a heads up, I am one of my daughters is having her second child in Calgary, so going to Calgary next week after you and I talk. And I'm going to go to the Calgary Stampede, and then I'm going out to a Gulf island between Vancouver and Nanaimo. I have a project that's on the go there. I'm going to go manage it and advise it, but I'll be back later in July.
Is that Lasqueti?
That is Lasqueti.
Have you been there before?
I have never been there. I bought it sight unseen, and I've got 2 10-acre sites that I'm developing there, and I got a crew there, and I better go out and put my eyeballs on it.
Yeah, it's a trek. It's a trek to get out there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I got to go, guys. See you soon.
Later.
Thank you.
Bye, Bruce.